Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Non-Responders, How to Deal with the Disengaged. My name is Jill, and I'm the Training and Education Manager here at Vertical Response. And today, doing our presentation is Savannah Stewart. She is on our marketing team. And before I hand this over to Savannah to get started, just a couple things. First of all, this webinar is probably going to be about 30 to 40 minutes long, depending how much we talk. That's always the thing in there that determines how long they're going to be if we get off on a tangent. At the end, though, there will be time for Q&A. So if you do think of some questions along the way, go ahead and type those into the box that you see in your GoToWebinar window, and we'll be happy to answer those at the end. Also, one of the questions that we get for every webinar that we do is this being recorded? And the answer is yes, we are recording this for you. So we will have this up on our resources page on our website next week. If you're not familiar with the resources page, you just need to go to verticalresponse.com and click on resources, and that's where we have our recorded webinars, and we also have upcoming webinars, the ones that you can sign up for, as well as guides, and it's all free resources for you, so we definitely encourage you to go there. There's also a URL at the end that we'll put up so you guys can see that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Savannah.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you again for joining us. So in this webinar, we'll discuss what classifies someone as a non-responder. We'll also go over methods for accessing them within your Vertical Response account and give you tactics as well as show you examples of what others have done to re-engage their non-responders. So what exactly is a non-responder? Typically, someone falls under the non-responder category if they no longer continue to receive your emails but haven't opened or clicked in 3 to 6 months or maybe longer. Non-responders can compose a big chunk of your list, so employing tactics to go after them and get them engaged can really make a difference. Keep in mind that some individuals may actually be reading your emails but not enabling images, or they may be getting your text version, so the open there won't be registered. This is why it's really important to create lots of links and make them compelling. Many senders actually count clicks as actual conversions in their emails. So when recipients click within your emails, it's also more apparent that they're engaged. So including links is really a great tactic for working around that.
And that's definitely something that we talk about in other webinars and even in blog posts and guides, is to make sure that you're including plenty of links in your emails. And this is one of the reasons, is because you want to get people to click on a link to go do whatever you're trying to get them to do with your email in the first place. And again, just to make sure it's something that's compelling, so even the people who get the text version click, so that they are being registered as taking some kind of action, so they don't end up in the non-responders.
So I know what some of you may be thinking, why don't I just purge my list of all my non-responders and have excellent open and click rates? Well, there's still a huge opportunity for you to get through to non-responders and really engage them, and we'll go over some of those tactics shortly. So there are 2 ways to access non-responders within your Vertical Response account. You can go to the last email campaign you sent that had a decent open and click-through rate and download.
Or any of your sent emails. It doesn't have to be the last one.
That's true. You don't have to go to the last one, but it is kind of nice to find one that had a decent open and click-through rate, so you can kind of really see who those non-responders are. You can download a list of non-responders under the download list option. Or you can use a segmentation tool to create a segment of individuals who haven't responded to maybe one or more of your emails. And I'll go over how to do each of those in the next couple of slides. So after you go to your sent emails and select just one email where you'd like to see the non-responders, then you want to click on Download List on the left side of your account. And also make sure you check the box All Non-Responders, and then you can download and view a list of those who haven't opened or clicked.
So this would be for individual emails. So if you wanted to see for a particular email campaign that you sent out who the non-responders were, or if you wanted to create a mailing list, you can also do that to do some of the things that Savannah is going to talk about in a few minutes. But this is just for one email campaign.
Right. So you can use the VR segmentation tool to create a new segment by going to Lists, segments, and then selecting a new segment within your account. You can then create a segment of non-responders from one or more email campaigns. You'll want to make sure you select did not click as well as did not open. Remember, if you only select did not open, it'll give you those who may not have enabled their images, so it didn't register as an open, but they may still have clicked links. So since you can also select a date range here, we don't suggest you mail to non-responders from too far back. If you go back any further than 6 months to a year and send to non-responders who maybe haven't heard from you in a while, it may cause them to mark you as spam, which could end up hurting your delivery rates in the long run.
And again, this one is if you wanted to create a list of non-responders from a certain length of time in your account. So after maybe the last 6 months or 3 months, you want to create a list of non-responders and see who hasn't responded to your emails. If you mail on a more regular basis, if you mail more than once a month, maybe you want to take the last 4 or 5 emails that you've sent out and create a list of people who have not responded to anything. And again, a non-responder is a person who took no action that we could track. So they didn't open it, or we didn't track an open. They didn't click on a link. They didn't bounce. They didn't unsubscribe. They didn't do anything that we could track. So that would be a non-responder. So probably they didn't see your email for whatever reason.
So why are some recipients non-responsive? We're going to talk about some of the reasons why your recipients may not have clicked or opened your emails in a while, or maybe even not at all, and give you some tips on how to engage them again. And we can all virtual high five to that. So let's start with one of the biggest causes. Many recipients become non-responders because they have older email addresses they no longer check. Attrition can actually be up to 30% per year, in part due to this. So what are some of the things you can do to rectify your records and attain primary email addresses? Since you can't get through to them really using email address because they are rarely checking their email address you have on file, or maybe not checking it at all, it's great to use other channels to get to them. If you have their phone number, for example, and your non-responder list isn't too large, you can give them a call and ask them to update their email. Telling them about the awesome things that maybe you're sending, or giving them the benefits of receiving your emails, can also serve as encouragement to help with that. Another method is you can also send postcards and ask your non-responders to come back and update their email addresses. Maybe include a 25% off discount offer to those who join your list or update their email. I think it's important to really give incentives when you want your customers to take an action and let them know what's in it for them, whether you're calling them on the phone or sending them a postcard or you using social media. Now, speaking of social media, that can also serve as a great method of contact. You can post hosted versions of your emails on your Facebook or Twitter, along with a short explanation to get fans and followers to opt into your email list. You can also place an opt-in form or link to an opt-in form on your Facebook page. You can grow your lists and get updated email addresses also by placing a sign-up form on your website. You can also include a link to an opt-in form. And a great thing to do when you include an opt-in form on your website is to include screenshots of your emails, or maybe even links to hosted versions of your emails, to really show people what you're sending and give them an expectation of what they can receive, so that you have a true opt-in. So we're going to go over a couple of examples of the things that we just discussed. Here, Birdie Botanicals, she's actually a vertical response customer here who offers organic skincare products. And this is an example of a link to join their newsletter on their website. They also give an incentive or special discount for fans or followers, to not only those who join their newsletter, but also those who like their Facebook page and follow them on Twitter. And the link that we just saw on the homepage to join the newsletter actually leads to this opt-in form, which also includes a 25% discount for first purchase. And they're really giving the encouragement most individuals need to join a mailing list. I also like that they tell you how often you'll receive the newsletter and what to expect in the content, since many people are really hesitant to give their email addresses because they don't want to be bombarded with too many emails, or maybe emails that they're not interested in. So if they really know exactly what to expect, they're more likely to opt in.
It's also good to manage people's expectations at this point. We do talk about this a lot as well, for getting people to join your mailing list. Make sure that what you promise at this point is what you deliver. And again, we're going to talk about this a little bit more later, but the expectations that people have for the emails or your newsletters that you're sending are some of the problems with non-responders. If you don't deliver what you're promising on this page here, you could lose them further down the line. So again, remember, managing expectations with your opt-in form is a great way to help keep people engaged.
And you also see here they made first name and last name required on the opt-in form, which is really helpful when you go in to update the old email address to the new one. You can sort your list by name and remove duplicates or remove the non-responder address. So here are some examples where businesses have shared their emails and newsletters on Twitter. One thing I noticed on a lot of these is when you click through to the email, many of the emails don't include a link to an opt-in form. So I really suggest taking just a few extra minutes to include an email, maybe update the email you're sharing on social media to include an opt-in form in the version that you share on social media, since many of the fans and followers who view your email via social media may not actually be a member of your list. So it's a great opportunity to get them to sign up if they like what they see.
You can also tweet a sign-up link as well, and we're going to talk about the opt-in forms a little bit later, so we'll tell you how to get that link. With Facebook or with a blog or your website, it's a lot easier to actually add a form on those different platforms, but with Twitter, you don't have a place that you can add an opt-in form or really set it up to look the way you want it to look. It's not really your page that you get to control. So with Twitter, it is a little bit different, and as Savannah says, if you include a link to your opt-in form in your email, that makes it easier for people who see it on Twitter. Also, you can just tweet a link occasionally and say, hey, check out our newsletters, sign up here or something like that, so that people have the ability to do that. Twitter is a little bit different. It does move quickly, and it doesn't give you the same options as some of the other social media platforms do when it comes to collecting information like email addresses.
Right. And you'll see here our Facebook page, the Vertical Response Facebook page, we include an option to sign up for the VR Buzz on the Facebook page. And you can do this on your page as well to help promote signups and also to help collect updated email information. And there are me and Jill on the cover photo.
Oh, nice. You pointed us out with arrows.
You guys know who you're talking to.
Luckily, you covered most of me with the arrow. And adding your opt-in form to your Facebook page is something that's super easy to do. And again, we have some information at the end of the webinar how to do that, but we have instructions how to do it. It's really, really easy. Facebook has made it super easy to add things like this to your Facebook page. So again, you can easily send people to Facebook and have them sign up. Or if the people who have stopped reading your email are still following you on Facebook, they can re-sign up again if they want to, or update their email address if they need to do that.
Yeah, and here's a little bit on how to create opt-in forms. So to create the code for your opt-in form in your Vertical Response account, you'll just want to go to List, Opt-in Forms, and then select New Opt-in Form. And what's nice about this is that when someone signs up through an opt-in form you've created through Vertical Response, their information is sent directly to your account, so it's pretty convenient as well.
Yeah, it's collected in a list. And I have a couple tips here on opt-in forms. If you've ever heard me talk about opt-in forms before, you've probably heard this, but I've worked at Vertical Response for a long time, a really long time, and I started out in the support team. And one of the things that I discovered is if you're using an opt-in form, I would recommend, strongly recommend, when you create your opt-in form that you send it to a list specific to that opt-in form. When you're creating the form, you have the option of creating a new list or adding that data to another list. And a lot of people think it's easy to just add it to another list, but the problem is you're not going to be able to find the information for the new signups as easily as if it was all going into one list. When you go to send out your email, you can select as many lists as you like, so you can always select your opt-in form, but by creating it as a separate mailing list, it's easier for you to see how effective your opt-in form is because you can see how often people are signing up on it. You can see who the new signups are. It's a lot easier to manage the data if you do it that way. That's my tip on the opt-in forms. There's some things that I always like to talk about. That's one of the things that I like to talk about. The other thing is we mentioned that you can get a link for sharing on Twitter or anywhere if you want to include it in your email as well. When you get to the end and you click on that publish button, we give you HTML. You don't want to use that HTML in your email because it creates a form, and forms don't work in every email program. There's so many things that are dependent on how your recipient has things set up, whether a form will or won't work in an email. So the workaround for that is just to take the link and use that in the email. And again, you can also use that link in Twitter. Now, you can just take it out of the HTML code. It's in there near the top. But if you don't want to figure out where it is in the HTML code, the easiest thing to do is click the submit button on the right-hand side, because there's a picture of your form there. Click the submit button, and it's going to pop open the form itself, and just copy the URL in the browser address bar. That's the URL for your form. It's the same one that's in the HTML, but it's easier to get to. You don't have to wade through all of those tags and things to find an actual URL. So it's pretty easy to get to. If you don't understand what I'm saying, either ask and I'll show you at the end of the demo. I'm sorry, at the end of the webinar, or get in touch with our support team and they can help you find that as well.
Great. So what are some other causes of non-response? Well, your recipients may have lost interest, which causes them to avoid opening the emails you actually send. So what are some things you can do to spike to their interest
So this
again?
is one of the things that we talked about a little bit earlier. So when we were talking about creating an opt-in form and putting that on your website, managing their expectations. So maybe in here they've lost interest because you aren't sending what you promised, or you are mailing more or less or something like that. Something's changed and they've lost their interest.
Right. So there are a couple of things you can do to really get their interest again. One thing you can do is make them an offer they basically can't refuse to show them the value of being an active email recipient. Offers or exclusive savings are really a great way to get your list members engaged again. Another tactic you can use to get recipients' attention and gauge their interest level is sending a more direct email to show that you've actually noticed they've lost interest. This actually catches a lot of people by surprise. Something like, do you still want to receive our newsletter, or we've missed you, can be an effective subject line. And also including the benefits to being on the mailing list and a call to action like click here to continue receiving our emails in the body will really complete the strategy to re-engage your recipients. So here are some more tactics you can use to regain the interest of non-responders. You can use the vertical response survey tool to send a survey and find out a little bit more about how to better meet your recipients' expectations and needs. And then you can take their suggestions and to send more relevant and useful emails. Also, thinking outside the box when it comes to your emails can be helpful when it comes to getting non-responders engaged. So including creative call to actions. For example, I once saw an email that used a mustache as a call to action button and told recipients to click the mustache for more details, which was great, and it really stood out because a lot of times, you're used to seeing the buttons. So any little thing you can do to really set yourself apart and think outside the box can definitely help to spark interest and get people engaged with your emails. You may also want to resend an email that had a high non-responder rate, and maybe change one thing about the email to see what impact that will have on the open rates. And it also helps you to gauge what is failing to catch your recipient's interest. Splitting your non-responder list and testing different approaches can really give great insight into what works best for your particular audience.
And again, we went over earlier 2 ways to get these lists, and you can actually use the non-responders that you get from your particular campaign or from using the segmentation tool and actually create a list to send emails targeted specifically to your non-responders. So you can create an offer that's only for your non-responders, one that you don't send to the people who are actually engaged, or change the subject line or the pre-header text in your email just for the non-responders and see if it's just they weren't really responding to the sort of subject lines you had, and that was what was causing them to miss your email in the inbox. So these ideas can be sent to everyone on your list if you want to, but what you really want to do is concentrate on why the non-responders have lost interest for whatever reason, and send these things specifically to that list.
That's right. So what are some other causes of non-response? Mailing frequency can actually be a cause of non-response. Sending too frequently and maybe bombarding inboxes, or not frequently enough where people may forget who you are, will not only cause unsubscribes, but it may also cause recipients to not appreciate your emails and eventually become non-responders. Sometimes email marketing can be a lot like dating. You don't want to make yourself too available, but you also don't want to make yourself unavailable, so it can really be tricky to find the middle ground. So what are some tactics you can use to try to get your frequency right? If you're sending fairly often, Jill, you can kind of comment on this, but I said 5 or more times a month. Try reducing the frequency to your non-responder audience. Recipients may notice your emails when they come back, and they won't scan past them in the inbox if they're used to constantly seeing them. Zipcar actually did this with me, and I definitely noticed and appreciated their emails more often than I had in the past. If you're only sending maybe 1 to 2 times a month or less, you can try to send a little more frequently so your list members don't forget who you are, or the fact that they even subscribed in the first place.
I think sending once a month is probably okay for people to try to remember, but if you're sending quarterly, which I know some people's businesses are maybe specific to the summer months, but you don't want to forget people during the time of year when maybe you're not exactly going to be top of mind, so that when you do start mailing to them again, that they're still remembering what your business is doing. So you want to mail at least once a month, just so that people don't forget who you are or forget why they signed up to be on your mailing list. And we have tips and things on some other webinars on what you can do to help keep people engaged, or things that you can do if you're sending your email more frequently than you're used to. But for sure, the frequency can be an issue for people. If you're sending an email daily because that's your business, you do like day trading or something, obviously people are expecting to get your email daily, but sending an email more than once a week can be overwhelming for a lot of people. So if you're finding that your opens are dropping or your non-responders are going up, then you might want to try mailing a little less often.
Right, and we kind of talked about this earlier, but meeting the frequency expectations you initially set is pretty important. If your opt-in form says you send a monthly newsletter, I'd say hold to it. List members may unsubscribe or become inactive if you fail to deliver what you initially promised. Another tactic is sending a survey to find out the preferences of your non-responders. Something very straightforward. Just, are we sending too frequently? We'd like to have your feedback. Can be great to help give you insight into what your non-responders are expecting, or maybe what you're failing to do for them.
And one other thing on mailing frequency, we are getting into Q4 pretty rapidly here. It is a scary thought, which is for most businesses a big quarter, and they usually do up their marketing and up the mailing frequency. And one of the things that we would recommend is if you do plan to change the amount of time or the amount of emails that you're sending during the fourth quarter, just let your recipients know. You might want to just put a little note at the beginning of your email or somewhere in the email that says, during the holidays we're going to be doing a 12 days of Christmas email deal, so expect to see emails come every day for 12 days, right? So that they don't suddenly wonder why they're getting more emails from you. If you're managing their expectations with that, if you say for the fourth quarter we're going to be sending a little more often, we have some cool deals, again, tell them what's in it for them, then you're less likely to lose people because your frequency has changed, because they know that you're going to stop when the holidays are over and you'll go back to the frequency that you had promised initially. It's just better to manage people's expectations like that so that they don't suddenly say, okay, I can't take this anymore. Right. I don't know why they're doing this, but I'm done, and then unsubscribe.
It's a really good thing to bring up, actually, with the holidays upon us. So now we're going to go over a few examples to address the issues with mailing frequency and lost interest for non-responders. So this here is an email that Sephora sent that helps to add value for their list members. The subject line, 5 for free, really gets your attention and it tells you that there's something valuable inside. And once you open and see, you can handpick your own gift bag with any order to give an incentive for individuals to purchase.
That always works for me. Does that work for you?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Free stuff
I
always
swear,
works.
every time they send one of those things where there's like a free gift, I'm like, all right, I'm sure I need something.
Yeah, and 5 little things, you know you will actually like one of those things for sure. So it's a great tactic. And they've also segmented based on email client here. You see here they have an add us to your Gmail contact list, which is pretty cool, and it prevents them from being missed in the inbox and going into the spam filter. And here, Macy's is pretty good at this. They give an extra incentive via a 15% discount. And they also, I think, add a sense of urgency with their adding to their subject line that the offer ends tonight. I think the verbiage is pretty enticing, and it can really bring an open for a non-responder and bring them back.
And I also like the pre-header. Again, hopefully you guys know what that is, but the pre-header is the first line of text in the email, and especially in Gmail, which I can see is what Savannah uses because I use that as well.
Right.
Gmail will pull up whatever the first line of text from the email is into the subject line, so it's something that enhances your subject line. So in this one, hurry, extra 15% off ends tonight is a great subject line. The pre-header says last chance, get great deals at the super weekend sale. And that's going to be pulled up in the subject line as well. So again, these are 2 things that you can test for your non-responders to see if these are the things that they'll respond to. Since tracking and open is the first line of figuring out why people are a non-responder, you're assuming they haven't opened the email, making changes to your subject line or to your pre-header text are things that you can test to see if you can pull them back into being an engaged recipient using tactics like this where you have a discount, or if you have a sense of urgency in your subject line, that might be something that can pull your non-responders back in.
So this is a pretty cool email that I liked. It's a special offer from Guilt City, and they've targeted it specifically towards their non-responders. You can see here the subject line says, we're taking an extra 25% off your next purchase, seriously. And they say, we've been missing one thing, you. So I really like the language and tone of this email. It's pretty conversational, and I think it speaks to what they're offering customers versus what they want customers to do for them. And this is another email from StumbleUpon, and they sent this to get feedback and to get recipients. I think they have 2 purposes. They really want to get feedback from the recipients as well as get their list members to be engaged with their service. And I like that they also give the benefits of providing feedback by including that they'll use it to continue to make the StumbleUpon experience even better. So I think people are more likely to give you feedback and respond to your survey, requests for surveys or anything like that, if you really tell them that you're offering this survey or want their feedback in order to make their experience better. And I get a lot of emails from Zipcar, and I love a lot of their creative. If you ever want great ideas or inspiration, they're a great email company to subscribe to, or they're a great company to subscribe to their emails. The Zipcar subject line here, I think, really gets your attention with the little psst and the use of personalization. They are really great with personalization. And also, they're offering, it's refer a friend, and you each get $40. And I think $80 total is really not a small incentive, even when you split between 2 friends. And it also it helps with customer acquisition as well. So they're kind of trying out 2 tactics here. And I mentioned earlier I was a non-responder with Zipcar, and they decreased their frequency. They were sending quite often, though, to begin with, and I really noticed and started opening their emails whenever I would see them. And here, ModCloth includes in the pre-header a message to star their email so recipients don't miss any further messages. And this is in the pre-header, as Jill kind of pointed out in the previous email, so it shows up in the subject line before recipients open their emails. And starring it, they're getting people to star their messages so that the future messages actually stand out. And they've also segmented their list here based on Gmail, since starring is specific to Gmail, which is also a pretty effective tactic.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good way to get people
Yeah.
to make sure that their emails are standing out. Because a lot of times people will say, add our email address to your address book, which is fine. But I like that they've taken it a step further and are targeting people in using specific email clients and telling them what they need to do in that email client to make sure their emails stand out.
Right, and I'm just starting to see that more recently, so I think it's pretty interesting.
Sephora's been doing it for a long time. Well, not for a long time. Well, probably about 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And ModCloth, I'm a new subscriber, so I don't know. They've been doing it as long as I've been getting their emails. But.
And Craftsy here has a pretty witty and direct approach to non-responders. In this email, they ask in the subject line, "Are you just not that into us?" Again, back to dating and non-responders. They're very similar. And in the body, they say, "We will miss you and we felt your absence." So I think it gives a personal touch and leaves the impression that they actually appreciate their customers and aren't just blindly blasting to their lists. You can see that they kind of took the time to notice that you haven't been reading your emails. And they also state the value. Right. This is one of Jill's emails that she sent
I wasn't
over.
reading it. They were right.
And they also state the value in receiving their email before they ask you in the call to action button, which says, "I love Craftsy. Keep the emails coming." To give a little bit of enticement before they kind of actually ask you to keep the emails coming, which I thought was nice.
Well, and that's also great because by clicking on that, then I am obviously no longer a non-responder.
Right.
I have not only opened it, but I've engaged in the email because I've clicked on the link, and they can keep me in their engaged list because I have clicked a link, which is frequently what people use to decide if somebody is engaged in the email or not. You know, if you're making a purchase, if you're giving feedback, if you're clicking on things, those are usually the things that are tracked as being an engaged recipient. So that would keep me in their engaged list for sure. Definitely. I didn't click on it. I'm still getting their emails. They didn't get rid of me. I haven't
given up on you just yet.
They don't need to. It's not like I hate the emails. I just don't read it all the time.
So what can you expect from your efforts to re-engage non-responders? Well, while some of the more successful non-responder campaigns can activate as many as 50% of their members, I'd say 5 to 10% re-engagement is considered pretty good, and that's not actually a small percentage. I wouldn't just count on purchases as being improvement. I think any improvement can really be impactful. Even if you get more opens and clicks, they ultimately can lead to conversions, purchases, and more overall engagement with your brand. And if you've tried any of these tactics and still see some persistent non-responders, we suggest you remove them from your regular mailings and just mail to them sparingly. You won't want them to mark you as spam or send you to the junk filter if they've continued to not engage and you keep sending to them on a larger scale or with more sends. That could happen. And as we know, when too many individuals mark you as spam, in the ESPs like Google and Yahoo Mail start to send you to other recipients junk filters. Spam filters are really getting pretty smart with stuff like that, so that's one thing to watch out for.
And resources.
We've really got some great resources here at Vertical Response. The Vertical Response blog has many great posts, including a recent one that we've done on non-responders titled "Calling All Non-Responders, Don't Give Up on Them Yet," which is a lot of what we talked about today. You can also visit our help site for more on surveys, segmenting, opt-in forms.
Also, if you're interested in adding an opt-in form to your Facebook page, it's on our blog and it's also on the help site. So you can just search for Facebook or opt-in form and it will come up. You'll be able to find that there.
Right. And Get Target and Get Results is another helpful webinar for segmenting your list, and you can find that in our marketing resources. And to get there, you just want to go to our website at verticalresponse.com and click on the Resources tab. And as Jill mentioned earlier, this recorded webinar will be there as well.
Also, there's a guide which I suspect will be helpful because we are talking about numbers related to your email campaigns. There's a guide called Email Reporting Basics, which takes you through. We don't really talk about non-responders in there because there's not really a good or bad number for non-responders. It's just an expected number. But it goes over what is a good open rate, what's a good click-through rate, what's good for bounces and unsubscribes. Plus, it tells you what you can do to change those numbers. And some of the things that Savannah covered today are included in there. Again, the higher your open rate is or click-through rate, the lower your non-responders are going to be. So focusing on getting people to open your email is going to be one of those things that can help with the non-responders. So that's a free guide as well. Everything that you see here on the resources page is free, so you can go and take a look. And there's also a guide on using our segmentation tool. It gives you some tips on how to use it and some of the things that you can do with that segmentation tool as well. So if you're interested in taking a look at that, there's also a free guide on that.